Hi everybody, Mario Nunez back with you live in studio. We've been missing you guys. Have you been missing us? Well, tonight you're in for a special treat. Mr. Dale Swope is with us, Tampa native. He's also partner in the Swope Rodante law firm, but even more importantly, he's the gentleman responsible for bringing the Florida brewery back to life. You know that majestic old building that sits there off of Nebraska Avenue and 5th Street in Ybor City that was once the dream of Vicente Martinez Ybor, that was completed originally in 1898? Well, Dale's here tonight to tell us all about it. So you've come to the right place and the right time, because the Tampa Native Show starts right now.
Otra vez.
Boom.
Come here. Let me tell you something. I remember Tampa, the way she used to be, the places we would run to, the faces we would see. Yes, I remember Tampa, those precious memories, a city rising on the move, a simple yet progressive groove. I remember Tampa, and she remembers me. Yeah. She remembers me.
Welcome to the Tampa Native Show. Stay tuned now for the fastest 60 minutes in cable broadcast history. Live from the studios at TBCN, the home of the Tampa Native Show. Join your hosts, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella, as they celebrate growing up in Tampa. From Shock Armstrong to Shakey's Pizza, from Braddock Street to Buffalo Avenue. Get ready to call in and tell us your stories, because sharing your memories has never been this much fun. And now, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella.
She remembers me.
Hi everybody, welcome back. This is the Tampa Native Show. We're so happy to be back in studio with you. My name is Mario Nunez, and as always, I'm seated alongside my broadcast partners,
Sally Nunez,
our 15-Minute Girl, and right there to her left,
Steve Canella,
aka Tampa Steve. And can you see the smiles on our faces? Hey, we've been missing you guys. You know, while we were gone, Stevie, they played a couple of shows though that were pretty good. You know, last week's show was a wonderful vintage show that we had with Tampa legend, Tampa native, Tampa's own Mr. Marcelo Maceda.
Incredible.
That was an amazing show. We just, you know, it's times like this when we realize we're doing the right thing, because we heard from all of you guys while we were off, and it's like, hey, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? Well, here we are tonight.
And that 3 weeks felt like about a year, didn't it?
It did.
It
did. Well,
forever.
One thing we know, when we do the show like we do each and every week, and these weeks come at us fast and furious, when we get a little bit of an extended break, say 2 weeks in a row where we're not doing a show, it feels like a long, long time. But
does.
In actuality, it's only 14 days. Well, here we are. Tonight you're in for a special treat. Mr. Dale Swope will be joining us in just a couple of minutes. He's sitting just off camera here. You can't see him, but he's right there. I can almost touch him. And he'll be joining us in just a few minutes to tell us everything he knows about that wonderful building that houses his law firm, Swope and Rodante Law Firm. And you know, it's been about 3 weeks now, Stevie, that we had a tour of that building.
It was amazing.
How about that?
It was.
Oh, I had the best time. You know, being a former brewer myself, I was totally impressed. We all were, of course.
Yeah.
The amazing job that was done, but also the history lesson that we learned in the process.
That was great. And
the
we
way
tried,
they all did it,
we tried to convince Dale that he needs to reach out, and if he hasn't done so, maybe we should do it on his behalf. Reach out to either the History Channel or perhaps National Geographic to get a crew to come down
That'd be
here.
perfect.
That'd make a great show.
And then have him give them the exact same guided tour that he gave us. Fascinating, needs to be recorded and documented for historic's
Good point,
for history's
Yes.
sake. Well, look, let's say right up at the top, let's talk about real quick, because we've got a couple of pictures we want to show. We want to do it fast, because tonight's show is going to come at you like it always does, like a runaway freight. We also are, if you've noticed already on the set, we don't have a phone tonight. Tonight we're not going to be taking any phone calls, because it's all going to be about Dale Swope and that beautiful brewery, that beautiful building. So send us an email, you know, show@tampanatives.com. show@tampanatives.com. Steve has got the laptop on the desk with him. There it is.
I'm ready.
And he's ready to take down your Bolita drawing numbers. Now, we've got 4 exquisite gifts to give away tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got to have at least 5 participants, or this is not going to work, y'all. Tonight, what are we giving away?
Numbers.
we're giving away a wonderful, wonderful book. A book, bring me in that one shot if you don't mind, Eric, called October Moon, written by a gentleman by the name of Monty Melville. Monty's son-in-law, Tampa native. Monty, we're fulfilling a dream tonight, and you know, we're happy to be able to do this. Monty's dream as a young child was to get a book published, and we understand it. This is that first edition book. It's inscribed to one lucky Tampa native show fan, and tonight you're going to win. So make sure, show@tampanatives.com. We'll get that to you. We've also got, of course, Marilyn Messina, as she always does, is giving away one bottle, 200 milliliters of infused balsamic vinegar or olive oil of your choice. Also tonight, we're giving away a pound of Caracolillo coffee.
We're giving away a lot of stuff today.
Yeah, we are. Courtesy, wait a minute, the best is yet to come. Courtesy of the Faedo family right there, Caracolillo coffee on Hesperides, right by the airport. And one more that we learned. Oh, and 4 tickets to the Tampa Yankees game. Wow, we've got a lot of tickets to give away. And tonight, and the grand prize of all grand prizes, we learned this just before we went on the air, a $50 gift certificate, and I hope I win this, to the Bunker, right there in Ybor City, courtesy of Mr. Dale Swope. Thanks. Bring us up in the 4-shot, if you will. Let me introduce this gentleman that's right next to me now, because I have a question to ask Mr. Swope relative to the next image that we're going to show you. First of all, Dale,
right. Yes,
welcome to our humble set.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much, Dale.
We understand you're going on holiday, or at least you're going to take a little trip tomorrow.
Heading out to San Francisco.
Oh, wow. So have you been before?
I have.
Okay, so you know what you're
I know.
in for.
Looking forward to it.
Down to the Presidio.
No mosquitoes, no heat, no humidity.
You might need a
Sounds
wrap.
terrible, man.
You might even need a wrap in the
I'm
evening.
for it. Let's see.
Let some of that fog come in there, and of course, good eating over there.
Yeah, I'll do
wonderful, and all those hills, cable cars, good stuff. Well, Dale is. We were talking just before we went on the air, and as it turns out, one of the pictures that we're going to show you now is something that happened here just this week, a major announcement. I hope you guys it didn't get lost on you, but I think it was on Tuesday. They announced that the National Federation, and correct me if I've got this information wrong in my head. There it is right there. There's the photograph. The International Federation of Indian Cinematic. Help me, Stevie.
Close.
I'm close. The India Arts Film Festival, they're telling me in my earpiece, is coming to Tampa next June, which is an amazing thing, ladies and gentlemen, because first of all, this is the Oscars, if you will, for the entire nation of India, the entire country of India. And for them to leave the country and first time in the United States to come to our city is a huge thing. But now, look at what happened, Dale. As we see that picture there,
Right.
What jumps out at you?
Tampa Bay hazardous waste. Not to enter, you know. I don't know what.
Do not enter, because apparently Tampa Bay is loaded with hazardous waste.
I don't know, man. That's not my idea of inviting. That's for
No,
sure.
it's not. You know, most of us that grew up in the 50s and 60s and 70s, we recognize the skull and crossbones as a symbol of poison and
Used to
danger.
be on the Hillsborough River
Yes.
up around Sulphur Springs.
And it was always on that Mercurochrome bottle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't drink that stuff. Plus, they're not having this event in the bay. And apparently, you know, this is not an aquatic event. It's not, you know, we're not going to need Schwimmflugels. That just happened last week. That was with the boogie boarding. That was pretty good. So I guess the question is, to bring us up on the 4-shot, if you don't mind. That's the photograph. The question I have for Dale, and it is important because as our lead legal counsel here on table today, is it beyond the pale? Is it? Can we expect that there might be a chance at some point in time, if this marketing strategy sticks, that somebody may make a proposal to City Council to change the name of our fair city from Tampa to Tampa Bay?
I am an injury lawyer here, okay?
Okay, all right. Let's make
So we may have to call a real lawyer.
Let's make that disclaimer up front.
Yeah, totally can. I mean, cities have changed their names before, and it's a political matter. They would have to pass a resolution, and I'm sure there'd be some state action required. Sure. But there is a process by which cities have in the past changed their, you know, Miami is now called Miami-Dade, is the official name of the government down there. So, as an example, and so it can be done, is the bottom line.
So if sports teams can change their name from the Florida Marlins to the Miami Marlins, certainly a team, if it moves from St. Petersburg and comes to Tampa, which we all hope it might even happen in our lifetime, they may be able to become the Tampa Tarpons once again. Wouldn't that be amazing? And then you'd have a tremendous in-state rivalry between the Tampa Tarpons and the Miami Marlins.
Fighting fish.
Two fighting fish. Wouldn't that be good? But my point
You've
is,
thought about this
yes,
before.
I have. I've lost sleep over this, Dale.
This is not your first time.
I've lost sleep over this.
Many discussions.
But the main thing we need to consider is we just need to be very careful. I just think that this is a slippery slope. And once the cat is out of the bag, and if 8 billion Indians see us as Tampa Bay, they're going to go back home and they're going to tell all their family that this place Tampa Bay is wonderful. We live in the city of Tampa. Okay, and this is the Tampa Native Show. All right, real quickly, we've got a picture of a gentleman who is a Tampa native, and we're going to show that picture to you now. Picture number 2. Randy Canal. Randy sent us this picture, and if you'll notice there, Randy's got his Tampa Native shirt on. And does that shirt look backwards? Like, what happened?
Does.
Did we flip that negative around, Stevie? What's going on?
He's got it on inside out.
Maybe that's it.
He's got it inside out and backwards. But that's cell phone pictures. That's Randy Canal, and he's apparently been bass fishing, man, because those are 2 of the biggest fish that I've ever seen.
These are good-looking fish.
But that's a good-looking shirt, too, the same in Hillsborough colors. So, Randy, thank you so much for sending that in. And, of course, if you want to get one of those shirts, we have them available. You can go to our website and make a donation, and we'll send that shirt to you right away. Two things real quick, then we got to get to Mr. Swope. On September 29th, remember, September 29th, Throwback Bucks Jersey Day. They're going to be playing the Arizona Cardinals. We've got an event set up. If you'd like to join us for that event, information on our website as well. That's tampanativeshow.com. We'd love to have you join us September 29th. Look at that shirt right there. You want one of those shirts? One of a kind?
That's sharp.
That's a cool shirt, okay? One of a kind. Nobody else has that shirt.
No.
You want that shirt? Come with us.
I want the first one.
Because that's going to be available to those that are going to be joining us on September 29th.
Very nice.
That's pretty cool. We'll
Very
get you one of
nice.
those, Lawson.
Yeah.
We'll get you one of those. That's
Double
pretty
X,
cool.
double X, triple X, large,
We'll get it
something
for
like
you.
that.
We'll make that up.
All right.
And on July 19th, that's just a week from tomorrow, Cuckoo Cuckoo and our dear friend Rodney Justo, as well as Roy Garcia, Robin Simbacow, and all of Cuckoo Cuckoo is going to be doing a benefit concert for the St. Pete Free Clinic.
Yeah.
And that's going to be next week. We'll have
It's gonna be
tickets
fun.
available. We're going to have tickets available to join us for that event. And if you don't have tickets, you can always go to their website and purchase them as well. So there's our PSAs, there's our political service announcements
go.
for the days.
Yes.
Starting off real quick, do you remember that tour that you took us on here?
I
a
do.
month ago?
Of course I do. It was awesome to have somebody who actually knew how to brew beer, because
Yeah,
we've
'cause
been there
yes.
for 10 years
Answer
now.
questions.
And yeah, everybody else, I'm trying to kind of make it up how the brewery actually worked. But of course there are no plans, there's no blueprints left around like that. And we just had to sort of figure it out over the years. But yeah, Steve had,
Well, in that photo, I recognized that spent grain tank, which is on that historic photo. I think it's
That's
photo
right.
number 1, actually, or 2. But yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, a lot of the things that you pointed out, I kind of referenced from
You've
my
seen them
old
before.
From your days.
Yeah.
From your days. What I think I came away with, not only your knowledge of the building, but you lived it intimately and passionately every day that it was being reconstructed and
Yeah.
brought back to code. But I think what impressed me the most was the fact that it was built in 1898. And I want you to speak to this now. Completed in 1898. That Vicente Bord did get a chance to see it before he died, which was very cool. It was the centerpiece of his industrial complex. Very cool. And only one of 3 working breweries in the Southern Hemisphere. Think about that, folks. Only
That's
one of
pretty
3
amazing. Yeah.
working breweries, and the other 2 were in Johannesburg.
in the tropics now.
In the tropics.
In the
Well, let me
tropics.
say-
3 in the tropics.
Okay.
Within the tropical zones. The
Okay.
first one, the big technological breakthrough was they had figured out how to make refrigerated air on an industrial scale. Somebody said, if you pull the air out of this cube and you don't let any more in, it will get cold in here. And they're like, nah. And they did, and they vacuumed it, and that made it cold. Well, you have to have cold to make beer. So once they figured out how to make it cold inside of a building, somebody said we could make ice. And they said, we'll get to that as soon as we make beer. And so,
yeah. Let's make some beer.
first they made one in the Castle Brewery in Johannesburg, South Africa. And then the very same architects who were now the pros at it made one in Havana, Cuba. And so, from Havana, Cuba, Mr. Ebor, I believe it was his son-in-law, who was a German, said, let's have the 3rd one ever, and we'll build it right here in Tampa. And so they did. So it was kind of a twin to those buildings. And it didn't really look like any other building in Ybor City. Growing up here, I always knew where that building was. It was very near near Eagle Roofing, where I went to with my dad a lot. And you kind of assume it was connected to the tobacco industry since it's in Ybor City, but it really was the only part of Mr. Ebor's estate that had nothing to do with rolling cigars.
Interesting.
And so And it looked a lot different too. Yeah, there's a good.
There it is right there. There it is
Beautiful
right. And the
building.
ice works was right next to it, you would expect.
They built the brewery first, and they chose the site for the brewery because it was where there was a spring, a freshwater spring called the Government Spring that had serviced Fort Brooke for 80 years. And then this property ended up being kind of taken out of government hands and put into private hands, and then they sold it very cheaply to Mr. Ybor to put Ybor City here. That spring was the water supply. They put the brewery right next door. Then when they added the ice house a year later, they actually built the ice house on top of the spring. Now, if anybody, the old timers from Ybor City hear me say that, they're going to want to fight and say, no, the spring was further to the east of the ice house because there was apparently a wishing well structure there, and you could go and get free spring water. And all these old timers remember
That's what they remember.
going there and getting spring water. But I can tell you that the spring is under the ice house floor. We saw it, and there were pipes that went out to where the wishing well structure was. So they were getting spring water, but that's not where the water came out of the earth in an artesian.
What I found amazingly fascinating, the complexity of the building itself.
Yeah.
You know, just the inner workings and how you took us up to the top floor, and we worked our way down to see how each of the different levels meant a different part of the brewing process.
Different processes, right?
And then, of course, the interconnectivity between the buildings, right? We'll talk about the tunnels in just a few minutes because I'm sure people want to hear about the tunnels as well. But, you know, you think about this in real terms, technologically speaking. How many bricks were required to build that massive structure at the time? And bricks were hard to come by. I remember you telling us that bricks, you get them from wherever you could, whenever you could.
Ybor City crushed the brick making capacity of the Southeast United States.
Repeat that. That's heavy.
You got to appreciate that. I have read that Ybor City and West Tampa at one point represented 90% of the industrial capacity of the entire state of Florida. 90%.
Wow.
And so this was really like nothing that had ever hit the state of Florida before, and really not much like this had happened all at once. This went from 0 to 8,000 overnight. It was a massive company town, and everything was bricks here. We didn't have a big lumber supply. We didn't have. There's no asphalt. Everything, streets are brick, buildings are brick. I guess a lot of initially the buildings were built out of wood. They quickly would burn down, and so then they went back with bricks. So our bricks now are suffering some distress. They're 120 years old, and since the streetcar track crossed the plant railroad, every time a train goes by and crosses that interlock, da-dun, 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 you can feel the energy coming into the building. And our bricks we lose about 1% of them every year. Well, we called experts in from around the country. The best one we could find, a guy from Clemson, pointed out that the bricks in our building came from at least 13 different sources.
Wow.
There was no uniformity. There were no ASTM standards. There was nothing. He says, people back then would buy a pallet of bricks if they could get their hands on a pallet of bricks and put it into their construction project. The funnest thing, though, I think maybe I showed you guys.
You did.
Is if you look in the mortar between the bricks, in a lot of the places, we had to make openings that didn't exist. And so they saw cut straight through the section of the bricks. And you know, it's not like a brick building you see now where they have a concrete block inside and then bricks on the outside.
Right.
This is a brick.
Brick through and through.
Solid
It's a brick.
It's it. And so when they cut through, you can see the mortar that hasn't been exposed for 100 years.
Wow.
And in the mortar, you can see little twigs and sticks and pieces of things
Bottle
that have
caps.
been in there, stuck in there
That's
from
amazing.
the time that the original builders touched it. And
No, it's the coolest building
is.
that I think I've ever
It's
been in.
awesome to come
It
to
is.
work there every day.
I can only
just
imagine.
can't tell you. It's got its drawbacks. It's got a little echo issue. You know,
Right,
your
right, right.
speakerphones are a real, people don't like you. And you can kind of hear conversations from every office in the place. You got some things to get used to.
Well, it's just a wonderful,
And it felt good in there,
wonderful
too.
building.
No, the history of the building is remarkable. It has good chi or feng
Yes.
shui or
And we got a great
all that
ghost.
good stuff.
We got the friendliest ghost in Tampa because
Yes,
he's
yes.
drunk.
Yes.
We have a drunk freaking ghost. We've never seen the man, but we hear his voices, and he doesn't speak English. I believe that it's
Really?
Spanish.
Spanish.
I believe, and he's drunk. And
Yeah.
so
He's happy.
The word of it is that
That's
there
so
was
cool.
on the opening day they gave away free beer to everybody because the theory was that this beer would not make you drunk. It was so pure because it was made in sealed environment with this vacuum, unlike
okay.
up north where it was exposed to the air, with no impurities. You've heard that before, that the problem with the pot that you might buy is the spray they put on it.
Right.
And that the actual marijuana is really healthy. I've heard those. I've read about that.
Right. We've never had any practical experience.
I know, but that's what you'll read in National
Of
Geographic.
course, of
Exactly,
course.
yes. Well, they said the same thing apparently about this beer. It was so pure, it couldn't make you drunk. Well, on the opening day, they disproved that theory and got so drunk. A fight broke out apparently between an Italian fellow and a Cuban fellow, and somebody grabbed the other one's beer, and somebody took their beer mug and hit the other one in the face, and they killed the Cuban fellow.
Oh,
Wow.
Beer mug, one
on
shot.
opening day.
Opening day.
Wow. Other than Tribune said, other than that, it was an awesome,
Great day.
Grand opening.
So, absolutely flawless.
So the Tribune was there covering the event.
Oh yeah, there's a great story about it.
That's very, very
So-
cool. And you have some blueprints that are there on the wall
Yeah. We
do.
showing, the architecture.
Survey.
The survey, that's what it
It was a
was.
survey that was made in 1920, was found on site, and the survey demonstrates a lot of things. Apparently, they were moving 13th Street, got moved over the years. Where the
Okay.
Ice House was originally a roadway that runs where the streetcar line is now.
Okay.
They wanted to move it, and so they made a survey to show, I guess, the city council what they had in mind. And in that process, they located all the structures on the building and everything as they would. And that brings us to the tunnel. We knew instinctively that there were tunnels out of this building. Mr. Ebor's grandson, Gilberto, was actually convicted, not accused, convicted of making beer and whiskey in that facility during Prohibition. So
Sure,
it was
sure.
happening. There had to be tunnels.
Yeah.
We looked everywhere, could never find them. But when they put the streetcar in, they went deeper than we could dig. They went to ground everything, and dang it, they didn't hit a tunnel that came right out of our building and went right in the direction of where Charlie Wall's speakeasy was, the El Dorado.
There you go. The El Dorado.
And it was a beautiful tunnel.
For the
It
old
was,
timers.
The construction was way behind. The guys were very friendly. They said, nobody's going to be calling the newspaper. Nobody's going to be getting the Indian artifacts, et cetera, et
Right,
cetera.
right.
But you want to come look at it, take pictures, you can. And
So
I
you
did.
have pictures of it?
We have a couple of little small snapshots
wow,
of
I
it.
would love to see
And
those.
it exists in there. But once I knew where the tunnel was and how it worked,
Yeah.
I went back and looked at that survey that's on the wall. And danged if they, in their abundance of caution, they actually surveyed the tunnels and showed exactly where they went off. They labeled it as a sewer, and it said to the bay, except it's going north.
Yeah, going
and
away from the
east.
bay. Yeah.
And so, it was going to the bay via Charlie Walls.
That's funny.
But yeah, that was a pretty
really
cool
great.
That's
thing.
incredible.
Tampa has a wonderful, rich history for a lot of reasons. And this brewery is arguably at the center of it, because you have, like you said, Dale, there was the working man and there was the 0 to 8,000 residents. It was a working town. People who work hard, typically at the end of the week, need a chance to blow off some steam,
Refreshment.
need some refreshment, need a chance to let their hair
The
down
best
and relax.
happy hour ever. It had to be in the middle of August, okay?
There you go.
There's an ice house with cold, frigid air just zooming out of the ice house.
Good feeling.
Sit on the dock and drink
Yeah.
a beer that was just came
Made
out
out
of
of there.
came
Yeah.
out of
The
that had to
best.
be the best hour,
Yeah.
happy hour that ever was.
I'm thinking that Mr. Ebor didn't get to see it for very long.
Right.
But, that made his stock, I guess you
Yeah.
could say, and his legend grow even more rich and more.
Extended it.
Yep.
There was an interesting a document that I had never seen before until about a year ago, and actually it turns out Joe Redner commissioned a sure enough academic history of our building. And among the
How long ago was
documents-
that?
About a year ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was awesome, perfectly done, really. And among the new things that they found was a report apparently from like a financial advisor or maybe a lawyer who was surveying the assets that Vicente Ebor had, Don Vicente had when he died, and writing a report to his heirs about what they could liquidate and where the cash could be and what could be done. And in there he described in great detail the brewery and all of its capacities. Apparently it wasn't yet turning a profit.
Okay.
And so, but he said this holds a lot of promise, and it was the only asset he had that wasn't tied to the cigar industry. The overall theme of his conversation was, you have a terrific set of assets here, but you can't break them up. You can't sell anything
Right.
because they're all tied together. They're all part of the
one unit.
cigar thing. And if we sell out, Ybor City is going to collapse, and
Yeah.
everybody will know that. So you're going to have to stay here. You're going to have to live with what you got, except for possibly the brewery. But his message there was, good heavens, don't, because it's about to turn into a gold mine.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
right, right.
You know, Sally and Mario, as I mentioned to Dale before the show, what a wonderful time it must have been to live back then in Ybor City.
Yeah.
If you think about it, when you wake up in the morning, you would walk outside, smell the Cuban coffee.
Yeah.
You walk a little further down the street, you'd smell the tobacco, maybe the Cuban bread, and then keep going a little further west, and you smell the beer brewing.
Amazing.
I mean, all the sights and smells and the sounds.
And everybody knew each other.
And
it
in
was-
between
must
that,
have been great, really.
some horse pooping.
Horse
Well,
manure.
In between that, some horse
that was
pooping.
beyond that, I think. That's the last one.
Leave that part out.
Because yes, it must have been an old factory just overloading situation there. But then again, let's be honest. That was kind of the mode of the day. So if you desensitized a little bit because your
used
windows
to.
and your doors were always open
Yeah.
anyway. So you like a bear, when you walk outside, your nose was always up. You knew when it was going to rain, probably because you smelled it before it ever
True,
got to you.
true.
And
Ybor City is still an awesome place.
Oh,
you
you
still
still
smell the
have,
coffee.
you still smell
Right.
the coffee.
you still
go-
smell the
Yes,
coffee.
you do.
You still,
Now,
Now,
Cigars
Vieta
are
roast right
back.
down there on 7th Avenue.
Cigars are back.
Yeah.
It's coming back. You know, a lot of smells maybe you don't want to necessarily smell, but you got La Segunda. They're baking down there.
Oh,
you
the
know,
bread.
it's
Yes,
awesome.
right there on
So-
15th and 15th.
Yeah.
Love La
You know, we had
Segunda.
on our last show last season, our last live show, we had Mr. Joe Howden with us, and Joe does some ghost tours and he does some history tours there in Ybor City, and you know, he came up with a wonderful idea to honor Mr. Ybor, and not just Mr. Ybor. Let's put it in perspective, but to honor all the industrialists that came to Ybor City, maybe at his to assist Mr.
Yeah.
Ybor, but have a Founders Day, Dale. Have a Founders Day celebration, because we, at the end of that show, we were talking. You know, his name should be in the pantheon of big names like Carnegie and like Vanderbilt and like Rockefeller and Ford. I mean, that was all happening in the Northeast, but he did stuff here.
It's interesting. You know, what separates Tampa from Sarasota? Sarasota had a bay. Sarasota had a train. Sarasota had some things.
Yeah.
It's really one or two or three or four people
That's a good
that made all the differences. And Ybor was certainly one of those people. Plant was
Sure.
one of those people.
Absolutely.
Probably McFarland was one of those
Yes.
people. You know, but you could list on all your fingers 10 people whose decisions about Tampa were so instrumental that they can truly be said to change the history. And it's fun to watch how now even one little change that happens may happen in Ybor City. Somebody will renovate a building, somebody will open up a business, and it will alter how things go,
Oh, sure.
maybe
Yeah.
permanently.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know, and Joe
it's a great
Howden,
way to leave a legacy.
Yes.
Joe, mentioning that perfectly, Joe Howden mentioned that it was almost in Galveston, Texas, that would have been Ybor City at the time, because he was deciding between
Yeah.
Tampa or Texas.
It just so happened, for a twist of fate, it just so happened that I think
The
it was,
cigar industry was-
Mr. Gutierrez, Gabino Gutierrez, that he contacted, who was a civil engineer who he had known, and they came to Tampa, and it was decided, maybe it was even at the flip of a coin, that it would be Tampa because of its proximity.
The story
to Key
I had
West.
heard, the story that I had heard is that the sort of the city fathers, as he was kissing them goodbye and thanking them for touring them around the city, they made a decision to run out and make him a better deal, an impossible to pass deal on the cost of the land. And that 40 acres that is now kind of the epicenter of Ybor City is what they promised that he would get so cheap he just couldn't pass it by. But you know, he had to build all the infrastructure. He had to build the roads. He had to build hospitals. He had to build
Yeah,
fire
everything.
departments.
Sure.
And many of those
Nothing.
structures are still there.
Sure, sure.
And then build his first factory. And you know, he insisted on building his out of brick. So it
Did he have
wouldn't
something to do
burn.
with the dock as well, to get the ships, safely to port, and then transport the tobacco into the?
As I
mean,
understand
think
it,
of the logistics.
Yeah, Mr. Plant, who built the railroad,
Sure.
his vision was always that kind of the industrial heart of the city of Tampa would be in Port Tampa, and that's why they built it down
All
to
the way
Port
down,
Tampa.
yep.
And it stands to reason, right? That's if you're driving a ship.
Sure.
Yes.
That's kind of the closest place to get in and
Yeah.
out of.
Sure.
Yeah.
But with Ybor City being in Ybor City, Ybor Channel became the heart and soul of our industrial operations.
go.
And Ybor City, you could kind of say made Tampa, which is what makes
It did.
why Tampa is so cool.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
the historian
kinda what our show is about.
thank you for
All right.
mentioning-
Good
thank-
segue.
We'll ask you for that endorsement at the end of the show.
got
Don't
it.
worry, and look right into that camera when you do so. But and now you know why, Steve. You know where I'm going with this, right?
I think so.
I got a smile on your face. It's a dead giveaway, and you see why we're so passionate about being very careful
Tampa.
not to misname our fair city as Tampa Bay. I mean, it's some people say, Mario, you're tilting at windmills. You're barking up the wrong tree. That ship has sailed. But I got to be honest with you, I don't think so.
Nobody's going to change the name. No, come on, man.
From your lips to Vicente's ears.
Where else can we actually have a 3-year fight rising to the level of City Hall about whether to name a road La Septima or La Septima? You know, only in Tampa.
And we were in on that, and we were a party to that.
I wasn't even going to ask which side you're on.
No.
I might lose respect.
No. We were in on that, but I think that one pales in comparison to the bigger one, and it just hurts my heart because it's just a question of being lazy, and all we're asking is don't be lazy. If you want to say Tampa Bay area, Stevie, we can live with Tampa Bay area
or region.
Tampa Bay region, Tampa Bay area, because have a little bit of respect for the people that are in Sarasota, St. Pete, and Clearwater. They're in the Tampa Bay area also. But when you say Tampa Bay and then you show that sign like the Bollywood leadership, it's a little misleading. I got to be honest with you. Hey, are we getting some emails?
Well, we do, and I
want to make sure we get the numbers.
I've got the numbers. What I've been doing
down.
is secretly and quietly taking the numbers and putting them down on the paper. So we've already
very secretly and very quietly because we haven't seen him. He's like a church mouse.
They're right here.
Sally's been watching me here.
Very good. Very
good. Hey, by the way, we have some pictures of Dale and his family.
And at the bottom of the hour, this would be a great time to show those photographs.
Yes.
We'll come back to the brewery in just a few minutes.
Absolutely.
But let's show a couple. Which one you want to go to first?
Well, I think.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Dale,
here we go, Dale.
This is your life.
Let's start with number 7 actually, and then we'll go past.
Oh, there you go.
That's my fat
like a
Elvis
little
picture.
Who's that little fella?
Yeah.
What grade were you in there, Bob?
Sixth grade.
Oh,
no,
nice.
I'm sorry, that's not true. That was probably about the 2nd grade. Edison Elementary School school photo right there.
Sure.
Very nice.
So that was the beginning
Tell us
of
a little bit about your family.
That's Happy Time Kindergarten. There you can see the front row
How
center.
cute.
How cute. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, right in the front.
And they dressed you up nice for that
Happy
shot.
Time over in by Riverside baseball field.
Yeah,
you know,
Riverside
Woodland
Little League,
Park
sure.
in that area.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Joey Papello is the guy that's right behind me in that photograph.
I see him.
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, there's many people that would be embarrassed to tell you that. That's my
Cute.
brother and sister and me.
Very nice.
So yeah, no telling when that was, but we grew up.
Mom and dad or grandparents there?
Grandparents. That's,
Okay.
yeah, that's the reason that I'm in Tampa, is the old man.
All right, tell us a little bit about that.
Bob Rentz is part of the immigration that nobody even thinks about. It's kind of the redneck immigration, okay? They came down from Alabama and Georgia. He came down around World War I to work in the shipyards for purely economic reasons because, there was huge opportunity in the shipyards, and he had just been growing up on a farm kind of in a sharecropper arrangement, one of 20 kids.
Oh my.
So
20.
out of 20 kids,
Any multiple births in there?
No, man. 15 of them.
Wow.
15 of them, and my grandmother was one of 15. So we would have family.
35.
Yeah, we would have family reunions.
You guys were all partying
Yeah,
immediately.
it was big, baby.
Yeah, you need a big room.
Nobody would ask you remember your names at our family reunions. It was way past that.
Yeah.
So, but he really was one of the best hardworking guys I ever knew. He came down, and where we lived, which if you know where 15th Street and Hillsborough Avenue is, we lived 4 or 5 blocks from that intersection.
Sure.
And he started the farm there. He bought a city block during the Depression, and he bought it for something in the order of $2,500, and it had an unfinished house in this city block that he made a farm. So he moves his family into the unfinished house and finished it with his hands, and they had cows, and he was the guy that would deliver. With my mom, she tells me that he would be the guy that would deliver milk to your house, and that's kind of how they made a living. And he raised what he needed, kind of in the same model as the Genta farm was.
Yes.
And so then slowly over time, he started right next door to their house in that same location. They started a roofing company, and catching into the post-war building construction boom with Jim Walter was one of his clients.
Jim Walter. Big
They
name.
became successful, and then about that time, my father comes down, who was stationed at MacDill, meets my mother through a get rid of your wife program at her church. Your daughter, right? Not your wife. Get rid of your daughter program. And so the soldiers, our servicemen would come over to the church, and it's perfectly a legitimate way to meet
Of course.
women. I was at the church, bring them home for dinner, and next thing, one thing would lead to another. So he marries my mom, ends up in the roofing business, and so then we move into the same city block where my grandfather had started this whole thing. So then my grandfather started the diner on Hillsborough and 17th Street called Rent's Diner, and it was there for probably 50, 40 years.
How many of us remember that?
24/7 world's best coffee, you know,
Rent's
and
Diner.
right across the street from Abraham Chevrolet, and-
Yes.
and across the side street from National.
With his
Super!
bell. That's a bell. That's a bell.
Vince Malloy here.
He's a Tampa native, ladies and
We
gentlemen.
may have a video of that pretty soon.
Yeah,
that would be
awesome.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, so he was next door to that, you know, and so as it turns
Wonderful
out,
beginnings.
yeah, and then you know,
Seriously.
when I was born, the house that my parents and brother lived in was too small now, so they built another house in the same city block. My grandfather built himself a larger house now in the same city block, and my aunt and her family moved to a house across the street from the same city block. So we had like this whole family compound going on, in what had been at one point a farm. So great guy. He
Are
had
any of the houses still owned?
all of the houses, none of the houses. To the chagrin of the neighbors, my brother's children are now running that same roofing business in the middle of what is now a residential neighborhood.
Sure.
And so
So
they
the trucks
should
are
move,
there
but
and
it's
the
been
movie-
since
Yeah.
1940 something.
Yeah,
They've been
yeah,
in that
yeah,
spot,
yeah.
and it's just hard to turn loose of the
Sure.
tradition of
Of
being
course,
there,
of
you know.
course.
And so, but other than that, my cousin Brenda lives in my grandfather's old house, and that's
Okay.
the only one that's still in any of the houses.
Now, I-4, what did I-4 do to that area?
Oh, you know, that's an interesting story. Everybody knows the history of how I-4 devastated Ybor City, and it's
Cut it in
obvious
half.
it did. Yeah, and that changed the world
North
for
and
a
south
bad
now,
way.
North and south.
Our area up there, and I'm going to call it Eastgate, okay? Think of Farmers Market.
Yes.
Think of Funland drive-ins.
Yes,
There was a moment in time when you could be forgiven to believe that that was the future of the city of Tampa. Hillsborough and 22nd Street, because everything all of a sudden was coming there. Sears
Why they put the
Roebuck.
Sears there.
Yeah.
Sears was a pioneer, moved in, and
Absolutely.
it was a mammoth thing. In fact, that's right where the diner came from, was when they put Sears in, the diner got moved 2 blocks away.
Wonder Bread.
Sears is a big deal. Yeah,
Wholesome
Wholesome
Bakery.
Bakery. And they had those, I mean,
The little mini loaves.
talk about a smell.
I
Oh my
know.
God. Oh my dear,
Still
yeah.
smell that
That's
smell.
why I'm
Haven't had
fat.
dinner yet.
That's why I'm fat. I blame Wholesome. But then you had Eastgate Shopping Center moved in there with the
Sure.
Publix, and it was a
Yes.
really pretty, that was big news.
Sure,
You know, Tampa
yeah.
didn't have much going on in the 60s.
That's right.
And then you had Eastgate Bowling Alley just to the south of that. That was a very big deal going in there. We had the 3rd McDonald's in the city of Tampa right in that same area. You had 2 banks, Seminole Bank moved in. And you know, while there was Malio's in South Tampa, we
Yes.
had Freed's. Okay,
Yes.
and Freed's was like a very
yeah.
cool Joe Namath
It was the
kind
hip
of
place.
bar.
It
Yeah,
was the hip
man.
place.
You know,
Forgot about that.
if you needed to borrow money, you could do it at Freed's.
There you go.
know, and
There you
so
go.
the
The
word
groceries
was
rate,
out
too.
on that.
Very cool.
And then all that was happening because Hillsborough Avenue was US 92. That was the gateway to the east for
Correct.
Tampa. If you came from Orlando and you were coming to Tampa, you went through the farmers market area. I-4 changed all that.
Hence all those motels on Hillsborough as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was
Little
that was
mom
the
and pop
path.
motels.
Yes, as
Yep.
you came down that roadway, that was where it was going to be. And then I-4
Changed it all.
disrupted everything, and now the path then was around down and through what used to be Ybor City. So that whole
And
area.
those, and you know, we're getting a little bit off topic, but not really, because all of this is recording and documenting
It's
Tampa
true.
history.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And, well, you know, you don't think about that, but just recently when they redid I-4 now, they did away with the 40th Street exit.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, for all those years, we had the 50th Street and the 40th Street and then 50th Street exit heading towards the east. And, you know, you cut off an artery like that, it can kill a subject. It can kill a
Isolate.
whole,
Sure.
an area of town.
Exactly.
Because now
Yeah.
people are going to find you, they can't get to you.
No,
and
it's very difficult to get into places like that once you're frozen out of the.
It's and it's really not right. I mean, you know,
it's
I mean,
Yeah.
Robert City. We lost Robert City,
The whole
and
city.
Robert City was a thriving, you know, area where families were displaced.
It's progress, you know. I mean, just 75 going
say
north.
that
What
through
we would
clenched
call,
teeth, though. I don't know that- I
what we
don't know
would
that I
call
believe it.
We're still
275.
having progress.
You know what we would call 275 now.
Right.
I remember it was fun as could be that we would slide down the banks
Oh,
on
yeah.
cardboard.
Cardboard.
You know, it was like we were
Yeah.
sledding,
Yes.
man.
Of
So,
course.
yeah.
closest we're ever going to get this lake.
Exactly.
Yes.
But, you know, that came right past Hillsborough and Memorial Junior High School, and that was devastating for that neighborhood because you were either on the right side or the wrong side, and to get from one side to the other now was a hike. It wasn't like it just,
Absolutely.
I guess the same thing as interstates will always do to cities. So
And they got to put them
Mess it
in,
up.
Right.
but at the
Yeah.
same time, realize that now
Sad.
you've created a high-speed thoroughfare where people are not going to necessarily
Oh, that used
pay
to be
attention
there.
to what's now off to the
right,
side.
you've made two neighborhoods out of one.
And you know, our forefathers, if I could criticize them for one thing and you know, throw a big rock at them and tell them, hey, what were you thinking? Why didn't you put something in here, some kind of rail system or light rail or a way that, you know,
Oh,
you
like
could-
a streetcar system.
Here you
Hey,
go.
how about
Here
that?
you
We could have
go.
a streetcar
Here you
system.
go.
We had one.
I know we did.
had
And didn't it
one.
work, Dale?
Yeah,
Come on, from
I am
Fort
a
Tampa
little
to
too
Sulphur
young
Springs.
to be able to tell you that it worked or not.
But
But my
historically
grandfather
speaking,
and
there
my
you go.
uncle told me that of course it would. Of course it would work. And they, you know, my grandfather Bob used to. Sulphur Springs was at the north end of the Nebraska line, and during Prohibition, apparently, everybody would keep their whiskey up there under palmetto trees, and you have to remember where they
Which
were.
palmetto
and
trees?
you'd take your dates up to Sulphur Springs Pool
Like
and
squirrels.
go out in the woods, and you could get drunk and, you know, have things, one thing lead to
Yes.
going off topic.
And
here.
grandkids.
But going off topic. But the streetcar certainly was working out for him pretty well. I
And
would
there
say
you
that to be
go.
able to get up to Sulphur Springs. So, no, you know, it is a, of course, the Ybor City streetcar coming back now, and while we can criticize it by, some people would want to say that it's not making as much money as it costs us. Good heavens, what is it actually making us in terms of things that, you know, people that are coming there
Connecting,
with,
right,
you
right,
know?
right, connecting people.
Yeah, I mean, I
Unique.
just don't even know how anybody could say that it isn't making you as much money as it's costing you because it is bringing back our
Back to
history.
the original photograph that we showed, and look at where the hour's just evaporating on us.
That's what I told
And,
him.
and it's evaporating on us. And as we talked about at the beginning of the show, before we went on the air, we told Dale that, you know, fear not, because this hour is only the precursor. This is like the warm-up
Right,
show to the
yeah.
real show, which is going to have to happen when he gets back from San Francisco
Yes.
at some point, because that's how it goes with us. But, you know, arguably when you land an account, I'm using air quotes now like Steve does, when you land an account, when you can go out and successfully lure the Bollywood to come to Tampa to celebrate their largest event of the year, well, what's the draw, man? What's the draw?
Right,
The
where are
draw
they
is the
gonna
airport.
go?
The draw is the airport
Ybor
because
City.
it is a wonderful airport and you can get in and out pretty quick. And it's got to be Ybor City.
Yeah,
What else would it be?
Ybor City is
very unique.
You know, if there's one criticism you can make of Tampa is that we don't have very much history. I mean, everything kind of started here in the 1880s, and it doesn't
Right.
go before that.
Right.
Well, when you talk about the history, you have the University of Tampa, and it's certainly beautiful, and it's terrific what they're doing with it. Okay. And then we have Ybor City.
Yes.
And then you're done. Okay?
Yes.
That's pretty much it. You're
But protect
done.
that.
And you should protect
Yes.
it, and it's like one of the rare attractions because it's a living attraction. People
Yes.
are living there and working there every day.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
and you know, our brewery, to bring it back from being, it's one of those things, it wasn't just neutral. The brewery was a big negative. It had been abandoned
Neglected for a long
for probably 40 years. From the time they closed it when the embargo hit. They stopped brewing beer in
Cold
the
War.
early 60s. It became the Cold War shelter, that's where you were supposed to go if they were going to drop an atom bomb. And when we got looking to buy it in 99, the Cold War supplies from the 60s were still physically in the building.
And
It
we
had
saw
been
them.
there.
That is
Yeah.
so
And
cool.
we saw them.
That
How
was
about that
one of
room?
my favorite things.
Yeah, and the room that is now our big
Yeah.
conference rooms downstairs, that was the Cold War bomb shelter where you
Yes.
were supposed to write it out.
Yes.
Which is very handy now whenever we have storms and things and all the employees don't want to come to work. I'm like, dude, this is
got a bomb
the shelter.
Come to work. We're gonna be fine.
I'm worried
Yeah,
about
we'll be
you.
good.
Get out of bed,
Yeah.
come on down here so I
That's
know
right.
you'll be safe.
Yeah.
But no, it had been, homeless people had moved in and then they got to below their standards and they moved back out again, and so there were pigeons. There wasn't a window in the building. The floors had rotted through. Of course, there were electrical wires, but they were the kind they were uninsulated.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
And you can
And
turn
then-
them on, but
Yeah.
I'm
Right, I'm not gonna touch that
I'm not
wire.
doing that.
Correct.
And you know, honestly, it was my partner in the building, a guy named Joe Kokolakis from Tarpon Springs. He is the builder, and he and I were looking to buy a building together and maybe do something and try to find something that we could either build or renovate. And we drove past this one 50 times, and it just never even crossed my mind that we would consider this building because it was so ugly.
Bad shape.
And yeah, the tower had been knocked off by lightning and had burned. It just was an ugly building.
What made it click, though?
Yeah, I was going to ask. Great
what-
question, Steve. What was the turning point for you, Dale?
Joe came and said, "You got to come take a look at this," and he had somehow dug up on the internet these historic photographs that we've been looking at.
Sure.
And it was like, wow, seriously? It had this whole pent
That's-
roof on it,
yeah,
you know,
so
and it had these. When you
Yeah.
started looking at it, and it's the first brewery in the South, and it's it was the tallest building in Florida when they built it.
forgot
And
to
I
say
was
that at
like,
the top,
it's
yeah.
kind of embarrassing to believe that 6 stories was it, but it.
But in the 1890s.
Yes.
With all those things, I said, well, okay, we'll go look, and it had been descended down into one of the old line cigar factories, and they had been storing tobacco, bulk tobacco there. And I'm like, seriously, Joe, you can do this? And he's like, yeah, I think. I don't know. Let's
Well,
go
he
try.
certainly
So,
did because it's
yeah,
absolutely gorgeous.
He gets
it's
he
a
gets
work
the
of art,
credit.
really.
No, it is. It's a living
Yeah.
work of art. Let's talk a little bit about this picture real quick.
Wow, this picture is in the depth of our renovation here. You can see all the windows are out. They're all carved through and cut through. But the ice house, the walls on both sides of the ice house are up. The ice house roof had collapsed down and was about 1.5 feet lower all the way over, and there was really no good way to save it. So they basically took the roof completely off. I mean, there was nothing that was done in pieces here. Much of the deck of the main building was completely done the same way. All the windows had to be custom made. The easy way to do these archtop windows, and the arches are there because they didn't have steel to hold up the opening.
Right.
So they had to build an arch to hold the opening open. And the cheap way to do that, or the easy way I should say, is just that you get a square window, stick it in there, and then you fill the archy part with wood. Joe insisted that we would make arches out of the windows and have them custom made, and that was before I think he realized that every arch was different. They were
Yeah.
there was no pattern.
Yeah.
How amazing.
Everyone was
Yeah.
handmade, and they were all different. So,
Really cool.
and this is a picture after completion here. If those 3 slots, that was actually the loading dock area, and there are pictures where they would back wagons into those areas right there, and then back them all the way into the ice house. There were doors that are through it on the other side too. And so that was their loading dock where they would bring the beer down that had been finished or load ice up into the
Horse-drawn cars.
horse-drawn carts. Well, dude, it's 1890s.
Yeah, no, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, that's our lobby area right there.
For Steve, because he's probably smelling
Yeah,
horse-drawn cars.
when we were looking at the building, that room had been converted to, they had like a mezzanine, a steel mezzanine that had been stuck in there so they could store more tobacco. You couldn't see the ceiling from the floor and vice versa. You couldn't tell anything. The front door didn't open, the windows were in there. It was a mess. That floor ended up being completely removed and redone, and there's our lobby today.
Wow.
Look,
So-
look at the difference there. It's
Huh?
amazing.
Yeah.
I love everything about it. And gentlemen, I hate to interrupt,
Oh,
but
no.
we are at that magic
What?
moment when we only have 15 minutes left.
No. Do we
Yeah.
have some
All right.
numbers? I mean, can we
That's how
can
fast
we legitimately
it's
do a
going.
Bolita drawing?
We can.
Can we? Because
Yeah, no,
I've been
we have-
compiling quite a
Okay,
few.
please get some
Oh,
more.
yeah.
Get some more. Hey, listen, send your numbers in because we got some more pictures we're going to
Good
show
gifts.
you. And here we come with the second floor of the building, and we're playing that game. Move that bus.
Yes.
Go ahead. You're on, Dave.
Oh,
Look
now
at
this
that.
is an area here under construction, all had to be renovated. That mezzanine area there is, by my assessment, and Steve fix me if I'm wrong, there was a big tank, and the guy would stand at the top of that tank and control the fermenting fluid, the fermenting beer in the process.
That's
And then
picture
there's-
5, yeah.
Yeah.
There it
Was
is.
there
There.
a tool
Look
or
at
some
that.
kind of a device he used, or was
Well,
it his nose and his hands?
No, the nose and hands.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's, okay,
Yeah.
so
And
add a little
he had
more
a, he had,
to
we
it,
found
and a ladle.
we found a brass ladle that was there, big long brass ladle, and
Yeah,
it
I
was
took a picture of that.
up there. That was that same area whenever it was working. So,
Look at that guy with his hands on his hips.
Great
oh, you know,
job.
on
It's
this
really
side of the
proud.
brewery it's cooking, it's hot. That's bubbling,
Yeah, you can see
boiling
that.
beer rather.
300
as it's
degrees
being-
probably.
See that?
Yeah, and so there's no air conditioning. There's windows that open, but that's it. On the other side of the same building, it's
Ice.
28 degrees. Dude, I know where I'm going to work.
Of
Okay,
course, of
sure.
course. It's
If you
not
go-
going to be there.
If we could go back to that picture, right, that's the very same area now in a
Yeah.
complete finished position.
Oh, you can see it. You can see it. You
Yes.
can see the
Yeah,
difference.
so you've got there's one of our lawyer's office, Mark Matthews, is right in that area above it, and then down below we have all of
Secretary's
our
cubicles.
yeah.
Got
Now,
it.
is that where the ghost hangs out, or no?
Ghost is all over the building,
Okay.
man. Yeah, this is a section of the ice house here that was chosen. You know, when to come in there back in those days when we first got it, you couldn't tell where you were in the building because none of the openings existed. So you had to go through a patch. You'd open a door, wait for the pigeons to poop on your head, and then you keep going down, go down some steps, up some steps. You couldn't tell. By the time you got to the lobby, you couldn't tell that you were actually 3 feet below where the door was that you came in. So that made it a mess.
That must have been quite an experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
You saw this thing transform amazingly. I
yes.
mean, you know.
And you have to be so proud of what
Yeah,
you've
no,
done,
forget
Dale.
about it. Forget
I'm
about
proud of my partner,
Yeah.
Joe, and what he pulled off here. He
Yeah.
is.
it. Maybe,
and after
the
this,
next time, is Joe still? Is he
oh
still
yeah,
close?
Joe's still with his Tarpon Springs. Joe's
him on the
business
show. We
is
should do
doing
that.
government work, and this was his first historical renovation. But his talents now have been recognized. He's working in places like West Point and renovating
out.
West Point. Yeah,
Wow.
he is now
We would
one
love
of
to
the
meet
one of
Joe.
the best building renovation, historical building renovators in the country now. So
You know,
That's an absolute.
yeah, I'll
it's a
drag
must.
him.
Well, good.
I'll
good,
drag
good,
him
because
over
you know
here
what,
for us.
we've got a space for him on the table right over there, and that's you know
That'd be
that's an
great.
art. I mean,
It really is,
it's certainly
yeah,
there's
it
a
really
technical thing that has to happen there. You have to know,
have the eye to see it.
but you also have to have the passion and the art.
You know, when we took the tour that Dale gave us, he mentioned quite a bit about how they kept the integrity of the history of the building and everything, as far as even the air-conditioned ducts, the railings, the staircases, everything.
Everything we did, we kept the original stairs,
Sure.
and everything has to be brought up to a modern code. So that was
Yeah.
a challenge, but and now they don't want you to have 4 stories without fire doors between each one. And Joe's guys figured out the solution to that with this water curtain concept. And
You did show us that
yeah,
plexiglass water curtain.
yeah. Who would have thought that? And it was really.
And you see just how narrow those.
Having an idea is easy. The execution
Executing
is
is
the
the-
hard
yeah,
part,
absolutely.
So
Especially something like
my
that.
principal contribution was to come in and complain and gripe on a daily basis that
Yes.
it wasn't good enough, and then I could leave, My work
do
is done.
something
Yeah, I'm done.
Look
here,
at that
so-
beautiful shot there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
And
we-
the logo's still on the side of the building.
Yeah.
Nice, yes, that's our flag that we fly there. The-
Okay,
The red
okay.
and blue
I'll
one
be on
under
the
the
lookout for that.
American
I'll be
flag.
on the
That means that we have
lookout.
just concluded a case large enough to meet certain criteria that
There
we
you
set.
go, there you go.
It's our way to sort of rub it into the insurance industry's nose
Right,
that
well,
we're
on the
still
s-
out here.
On the set, when we have a moment like that, a moment of clarity, we ring a bell.
Yeah.
You fly a flag. It's a little different.
For better or for worse, people like Joe Capitano have figured out that when our flag goes up, that's when they call us for contributions to the charity. So now we're like we only raise it at night when nobody can see.
Nobody's
so,
watching.
Yeah.
That's great. But we did have the opportunity to take a tour of the building, and Sally did take some pictures.
I did, I got some
that day.
amazing
And
pictures.
we're going to have Dale back on because look, we're at the point now where we've got to do our drawing. We've got 6 minutes to go, and we still have everything to talk about. Plus, we wanted to show you the pictures. One of the most intriguing displays was that display that you had.
the
with-
old bottles.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
not
yeah.
just the old bottles, but the things that you had there from the 1960s. You said when you opened it up, the bomb
Oh,
shelter,
yeah.
the
Oh,
toilet paper
Yeah.
from the 60s, the
Yeah.
saran wrap from the
The
60s.
food.
That's
It was
It was
almost
a-
like if you open a time capsule.
The night watchman apparently died in 1963 or late 63 or 64.
And he could be your ghost.
He could be my ghost. He certainly could be. But there was a place for where he was living, and he had apparently had become disabled because his crutches were there, his clothes were still folded up in the drawers, and there was a newspaper, a Tampa Tribune newspaper, folded up, never opened until I, of course, unfolded it. But it had the whole story of the Kennedy assassination and the investigation in New Orleans that was going on at the
Wow.
time. Yeah, that's one of the greatest pieces that we had. But the Cold War supplies are still
Still
there,
there.
and
Yeah, they're
water.
really cool.
Would you
Carbohydrate
ever-
pills.
With 5 minutes to go, we got to get to our Bolita drawing,
Do
or
it.
else the show will not be complete. Well, would you ever consider doing tours of the building? Have you ever?
We do tours of the
do
building.
tours?
We do there's an architectural hop that the Museum Society does, and we do tours for it then. And some school kids come through and
That's
different
neat.
people
That's
like that.
neat. 'Cause a
and we have-
building like that needs to be enjoyed.
every quarter we have an event to bring in the East Tampa community called Think Tank Thursdays, and small businesses all come. Just a networking
Sure,
event,
sure,
and
sure.
we tour around then too.
Can the
so-
Tampa Native Show join that?
bring it. Yeah,
Can we join that group? No, seriously.
Talk to Emily. We'd love to have
Oh,
you
okay, that'd
there.
be
And
wonderful.
Emily knows when it is and how it is, and we're raising money this time. We raised charities, and so this one's for the Ronald McDonald's House. So
that's
you may have to
wonderful.
come bring $10 or something like
Oh
that.
no,
So-
absolutely.
works.
That's easy to do.
That works.
All right.
And we got a nice email from Jackson McQuigg also mentioning that
Oh.
it's similar to the Union Station
Yes.
renovation that took place just
Yeah.
recently last
Jackson
year.
McQuigg. He's
Right
right
We need
down
to have
the
you on the
Yes.
show soon.
Right
Jackson,
down.
Jackson,
Yeah.
we're going to have you on next time
We
you're in
haven't
town, so
forgotten.
please let us know. All right,
Email.
Dale, let's go ahead. Our first gift we'll give away will be this wonderful book, October Moon, once again, by Mr.
Do we
Monty
have all the
Melville.
numbers
Monty,
on
thank
here?
you so much. Get well soon, Monty, and thank you so much for dedicating this book to one of our fans.
I thought there's supposed to be a good-looking woman that does
Get
this.
in there. No,
Remind-
no, our
just
guest
remind-
of honor.
Am I supposed to get the cold ball or the
cold
hot
one,
ball? The cold ball.
the
Okay,
cold
go.
one.
There we go. Number 62.
62.
Need to help out.
Here we go. Closest to without going over.
Jim Hooper.
Jim Hooper.
58.
58. Thank you, Jimmy. That book is for you, my good friend. Next will be Caracoligo coffee, a pound of Caracoligo coffee.
All right, baby. Here we go.
Lucky winner.
Number is 72. We're on a run here.
72.
Gonna go up
So
high.
that would be Dale Kimball with number 56.
Dale Kimball, thank you so much.
Congratulations, Dale.
Next will be 4 tickets to a Tampa
Wait,
Yankees game.
wait.
Here we go. Here we go.
Wow, I thought that said 82, and that would have been freaky because there is no 82.
78.
28.
28.
28.
So 27, 26, 25.
24, Angelo Remore.
Angelo Remore, Yankee tickets, wonderful. And this is for
Angelo or Angela?
Angelo.
This is for 200 milliliters of infused balsamic vinegar.
I want
or your
that.
choice of
Angela
yes.
Rumore works at the bunker. Okay,
Oh.
next one, I got it out already, is number 20.
20, 19, 18, 17.
Fred Tomasello.
Fred Tomasello.
Congratulations, Fred.
Last
Freddie.
one.
And last but not least, this is the grand prize, a $50 gift certificate to the bunker, courtesy of Mr. Dale Swope.
Number
Da-da-da.
66.
I think I won.
Oh, come on.
Jerry Taft.
Jerry Taft.
Jerry
All right,
Taft,
Jerry,
that's
it's
wonderful, Jerry.
19th Street over by the museum between 8th and 9th Avenue. The brick
Right across
building
from
right
Centennial
there.
Park. Bring me
Can't
up on the
miss
one
it.
shot if you don't mind. This is the I Remember Tampa shirt dedicated to our show and to that wonderful theme song written by Mr. Mike Baluha. This is your Tampa native shirt in Rays blue, and the Rays are on a hot streak now, winners of 8 in a row.
That's sharp.
This is really, really nice and sharp. There it is, Tampa native. And
Very
of course, in Bucks colors, this is your Tampa native shirt. Get
Or
over there.
Hillsborough High School
Hillsborough
colors.
High School.
Hillsborough High
Make
School.
a $25
Case
make
Yeah.
a $25 donation, and any one of these shirts can be yours. Help us with our fundraising drive-in. Dale, this shirt's for you, my good friend. All right,
baby,
take
go
this
big
one.
red.
Take this one to San Francisco,
San
with
Francisco,
you,
exactly.
and take a picture of yourself by the Golden Gate and send
That's
it
a
back.
good call. You got it. I
Well,
happily do that.
Thank you, and we will
I
definitely show
happily do
that. Thank you so much for being with us today on
All
the
right,
show.
man, my pleasure.
What-
Walk through memory lane here.
Thank you, and we're going to do it again. Remember to visit our website, everybody. That's TampaNativeShow.com, and of course,
Swoperodante.com.
if you'd like to learn more about Dale and his business there, and that wonderful, wonderful building. We're going to show you more pictures the next time, and we just scratched the surface.
It was incredible.
You know what? I loved everything about the brewery and what we learned, but I even loved even more so when you went in infinitesimal and passionate detail, all that stuff between Hillsborough Avenue and 15th Street, and you started knocking all those old places down when you were talking about your grandfather's
Yeah,
place.
right.
That was pretty cool.
took back
Yeah,
some-
we could
That
feel
was pretty
it.
captivating.
Feel
That
it,
was
yeah.
pretty.
Took us back in time.
There you go, man.
So thank you, Dale. Thanks so much, and we'll do it again.
Did you have fun?
Totally fun.
Good.
I'm
Isn't
glad.
that
I'm
cool?
glad you guys are doing
ready for
this.
part
This is
two.
a massive, massive contribution to the preservation
thank
of the
you.
community. So it's it's different from the museum. The museum, you get to go and see things and look at
Right.
them and try to imagine the story. What you guys are doing is actually bringing the story.
Thank you,
bringing
Dale.
the
Thank you
people.
so much.
We better do our
On behalf of Eric Cups, our technical director, Tampa Steves, Sally Nunez, Dale Swope, I'm Mario Nunez, ready to do it together.
I do it, best salud,
And happy days. We love you, Tampa.
4,222
Yes, we do.
times.
Back when we were younger and everything seemed new, we used to have a lot of fun, yes we did, no matter what we do. Sleepy days, long summer nights, going anywhere we please, with love that I could call my own, love that I've always known, the city that I call my home, a home from which I never roam. This love affair was meant to be. I love her and she loves me. I remember Tampa, oh, she remembers me. She remembers me. I remember, yeah, yes I do. Oh, I remember, yeah, me and you. I'm a Tampa native. native, can't you see? I will share my story with you to preserve its history. Yeah.
All right now, don't forget, Thursdays, 7 p.m. on TBCN, home of the Tampa Native Show.